What is up, YouTube? You are watching the Skynet Gen Network, and today I'm going to be reviewing Salem Season 2, Episode 2, which is a TV drama series about the Salem witch trials in Salem, Massachusetts. This is the second season. It just started. It's on WGN America. So, what happened in Episode 2? So when we left Episode 1, Mercy Lewis, this wannabe witch, ends up killing these witches because they see her as a joke and they refuse to help her. And so pretty much, at the end of the episode, we see that Mary's son falls unconscious, and I thought that he died. Apparently he didn't die. But before I get there, the episode starts off with Mary gathering these soldiers. Well, they're not really soldiers. These villagers with guns, pretty much, and heading to the forest. Because this is where Mercy and her followers are living at. See, what they do is they sleep on these corpses to protect themselves. That's their only way to protect themselves, you know. So when people are traveling through the forest, they see, oh, this is just a bunch of corpses, nothing more. They don't know that Mercy and her followers are pretending to be dead, lying on these corpses. I mean, no one can imagine that, oh, someone's gonna be lying down next to a bunch of corpses. But Mary knows this. So when they go to the forest, she's like, light them on fire. Light every single body on fire. So that's what they do. And then slowly we start to see these people start yelling, you know. And she's like, kill them all. So these villagers start shooting at some of these followers. And then we are taken to Mary's looking at Mercy, who is on fire. And she tells Mercy, you wanted a war, you got one. And pretty much we assume that she dies. And, I mean, she's on fire. She's gonna die. You know? So, the first 2 minutes of this episode start off like I was not expecting that. I didn't think in 2 minutes they were gonna kill off a character. And, you know, pretty quick. So, then we are taken to a scene in the forest where John Alden is heading from the Native Americans. He's heading to Salem. Remember, he's on a quest to kill all these witches in Salem. So on his way there, he meets the vision guy who gave Mary the vision that he was dead. And he knew that John Alden was alive. So when John Alden learns this, you know, John Alden's like, well, so whose side are you on? You know, you're helping Mary, now all of a sudden you want to help me, like, you know? And he's like, I'm a circle, and circles don't have sides. He said something like that, and so eventually he's like, oh, well, then you'll be willing to help me then. And he's like, yeah, so John Alden wants to know all the witches in Salem because he only knows, like, a couple of them. The guy kind of refuses to tell him. John Alden's trying to question him, trying to find out as much as he can. The guy doesn't really say much. So John Alden ends up killing him. So then we are taken to the scene and we see that Mary's child is alive. You know, he's not dead, he's not unconscious, he is alive. I guess when the witches were killed, he was, you know, it kind of, I don't know, it just sent a pulse of energy into him that kind of made him fall unconscious for like a couple of seconds. But he's perfectly alive, he's moving, he can talk, so he's not dead. And as pretty much we learned that as long as the grand rite is completed in time, he'll stay alive. And pretty much what I ended up looking it up because I must have missed it. Well, I didn't miss it, I just failed to mention it in the first episode, in the first review. So the Grand Rite, pretty much what it is that these witches want to release this plague onto Salem to get rid of these Puritans. They want to take Salem, and these Puritans are in their way. I don't know, there might be more to it, because, there's plenty of ways to get rid of Puritans. Why do you have to bring out a plague? Still don't really know. So, we see that in the first episode, that the plague is spreading, and this guy named Isaac is one of the first people to become infected. So this doctor comes to Salem, and he's starting to question, he wants to find out answers. How did he get it? How can we stop it? And Mary's, worried in episode 2, what if he starts asking the wrong questions? Because Isaac is like a loyal servant to Mary. She took him in, she started caring for him, because in season 1, he was seen as this fornicator, and that no one wanted to talk to him because he was branded. And, Salem's a small town, so everyone knows one another. So if you're branded, no one's going to talk to you. But Mary took him in, kind of cared for him, showed affection towards him, but really she was kind of making him a servant. But now it's starting to backfire, because now she's worried that he might say something about her, and she's trying to lay low. She doesn't need people to know that she's a witch. Mary right now is at the top of her game. She's like the head of the town, kind of, even though no one really acknowledges that she's the head of the town, because they think that her husband's, she's speaking on the behalf of her husband. But anyway, so she's worried. So she goes to see Isaac, and she's gonna kill him. But then when she gets there, Isaac has no memory. It doesn't seem like he remembers that it was Mary's fault that the plague spread. He blames himself. So Mary's like, I guess she still has a good heart, and she decides not to poison him, even though she poisoned the water. But then she spills the drink. So she chooses not to kill him. I guess maybe he'll be useful down the road. I don't know. So then we're taken to this scene with Hale, who is this female witch, who she learns that her parents have been keeping a secret from her that she's a witch. So now that she killed her parents because she couldn't control her powers, she's an orphan. So people are coming on to her. So this guy who wants to become the future magistrate is coming on to her. He's like, you're an orphan. You're unprotected. People are going to be coming on to you. You need to marry the right guy. So he's coming on to her. And, so she's trying to leave Salem. I don't think she wants to marry anyone, because she can't even control her own powers. So, she marries someone. It's only a matter of time before they find out she's a witch. She's not trying to release that information either. So she, when she gets home one day, she sees her father's witch mask on the table. And we see in season 1 that this witch mask is this kind of teleportation device. You put it on, and you are teleported to some other location, usually in the forest. Usually. In season 1 it was the forest. So when she puts it on here, she's taken to Cotton Mather's home outside of Salem. I don't know where it is exactly, but far away from Salem. And when she approaches Mather's door and she knocks and Mather opens up, he's surprised that she's here. So for those of you who don't know who Cotton Mather is, in season 1, he is this reverend who's on a mission to find these witches and execute them, but, doesn't really get anywhere. And then when he's brought to court and questioned, well, why is there so much panic going on in Salem? And what's going on? What are you doing? There's innocent people getting hung. Then there's the whole thing with Hale's parents being killed, and they can't answer. He can't answer what. Well, he didn't know actually about that. But there's all these deaths going on. and there's this witch panic going on. So the court is like, what is going on? Why can't you answer any of our questions? And then also, Cotton Mather's father died, and he can't answer why he died either, even though he's the one who killed him, because he was kind of going mad, and he was torturing people that maybe were innocent. So he's pretty much, they're like, you're done doing experiments, you're banished from Salem. So when Anne shows up, he's surprised to see her, and she's trying to convince him to come back to Salem because she's scared. So while she's at Mather's, the Countess Marburg shows up, and she's like, we learn in episode 1, actually, there's like, briefly, we learn that she is this ancient, powerful witch. She's like the last true witch. So she shows up to Mather's house as if she was in the neighborhood. So she comes in, she's doing this casual conversation, small talk, and then we hear her kind of like speaking telepathically to Anne, like, I know you're a witch. Starts playing mind games with her, taking her to another location inside her head. Literally, to another location. They show you another scene, which made me wonder, was the whole Mather scene, just made up, an illusion? But it wasn't an illusion, so she's playing with her mind, so pretty much, yeah. So, what's her name? The Countess Marburg is actually pretty interested in Mary Sibley as well. She's wondering, who is this Mary Sibley, why is it her that's completing this grand rite? I mean, she's not surprised that Anne's father was supposed to do it, but Mary ended up doing it, and she's like, who is this? I don't even know who this person is. I gotta see this. So, in future episodes, I know it's only a matter of time before the Countess Marburg actually shows up to Salem. So, this Queen Witch is gonna show up to Salem. We don't know when. So then, towards the very end of the episode, or actually, not even towards the end of the episode, in the middle of the episode, we see this hand. We're taken back to the forest, and we see like this hand just emerge underneath all this rubble and bones, and we assume that it's Mercy. And at the very end of the episode, we're taken to to Mercy's father's house, and there's this knock on the door, and the father opens the door, and there is Mercy standing there, burned everywhere, her face is swollen, you can see her flesh, she's all bloody and everything, looks like a freaking demon, kind of. I guess demons are red and don't have wings, I don't know. And she's like, hello, Father, and that's how it ends. It ends on a kind of a cliffhanger, so overall, I would say this was a really good episode. I mean, they're not wasting time in season 2, they're going right after it, and it's definitely a lot more intense this season, but I will say this, season 1, so for those of you who are thinking, well, is this a fiction? Because, that Salem actually did happen, and people did think that there were witches. Now, there weren't really witches. There were people who thought people were witches. So there weren't actual witches. I don't think. I wouldn't assume so. But people were in such fear that there were witches that they believed that there were witches. But the funny thing is that this TV series is actually based on real events. So these characters actually existed. And Hale existed. Tituba, who was this kind of slave servant. Or in season 2, she appears to be more than just a slave servant, or the servant of the witches, rather. She was a slave. They revealed in season 1 she was a slave to some guy, and I don't remember, and she escaped, I think. But anyway, Tituba existed, and Hale existed, Mary Sibley existed, John Alden existed. All these characters existed in real life. And so season 1 is actually based on, like, true events, kind of. I think the plague was, and the Grand Rite, I don't know how much the truth there is behind the Grand Rite. The plague. So in season 2, this plague is, there's some bit of truth to it. Because during this time in the Salem witch trials, there was a smallpox outbreak. But here in the show, they're not saying it's smallpox. It's just a plague, and it doesn't look like smallpox. But, you know, obviously if they were to make it look like smallpox, you know, smallpox isn't maybe, I don't know, it doesn't look like that much of a threatening disease, even though it could be threatening. I mean, you can die from smallpox. But, you know, I guess they wanted it to be more gruesome, so they just made up this new plague in its place. And so I feel like season 2, it's not as accurate as, it's not focusing on accuracy anymore. Season 1, they try to stay as accurate as it could. I mean, it's obviously not accurate, but there was a bit of accuracy in it. Season 2, it's mostly action and more suspense. They're moving further away from accuracy. And it might be better for the show. But those who are nuts about shows being accurate might not enjoy it. But overall, I mean, great start. I mean, I remember watching the first season, and the first 2 episodes, they were good, but they weren't as good as these first 2 episodes. I don't think. I would have remembered. So, it's definitely picking up. It's getting better. And, by the way, Countess Marburg is actually being played by Lucy Lawless. So those of you who know her might know her as Xena, back in the, I don't even remember when that show existed. It was like the 90s. And then she was also, a couple of years ago, on the Spartacus TV series on Starz. She played Lucretia. So she's there. So the acting's pretty good. And the show is turning out to be it's getting better. It's getting better within the minute. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with John Alden, if he's going to kill Mary. Because Mary's a witch, and John's like, oh, I'm going to kill every witch in Salem. But he kind of loves her, I'm assuming. So it's going to be interesting. If he sees her, is he going to kill her? One thing I'm going to say is that if he sees her and he doesn't kill her right away, he's not going to kill her. That hesitation, you can't hesitate. But it's going to be interesting to see. He's already starting to kill people slowly along the way. I mean, so he killed the Vision guy, and then he went to town, killed some guy. Now, I don't know, that guy was probably not a witch, but he's like, I like that jacket. I gotta kill this guy to get it. So, I don't know. We're gonna see how many more people he kills next episode. So next week, next Sunday at 10 o'clock, we will see a new episode on WGN America. It will be episode 3. So if you have not caught up with the series, I guess I highly recommend you watch it, maybe? I don't know. Check it out. I mean, there's not that many episodes in the first season. There's like 13 episodes in the first season. We're 2 episodes into this season. It's worth checking out. Like I said in the previous video, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, which, season 5 happened today, and by the way, it was a pretty good episode. I can't wait for next week's episode. And then there's, what else? And like I said in the previous video, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, Legend of the Seeker, what other shows? I don't know, these fantasy type shows, you know, I'm sure you'll enjoy watching this one. It's, like I said, it's not a great series, but it's worth checking out, and, it seems to be getting better within each episode, and season 2 is definitely, it's not as slow as season 1. It's picking up the pace, and it depends really. I feel it's better. It's better that it's picking up the pace, but at the same time it's not as good because it's not as accurate, and now they're swinging for the fences, doing like random action scenes that may or may not have happened. I would have liked them to stay true to the story, but there might not be anything left to tell. You know, if they try to stay accurate to the events that actually happen in real life, they might run out of material, and that's why they're drifting away, maybe from the accuracy thing. You know, it's kind of like that video game Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno was a pretty good game, and they should have made a second one, because they left the first one kind of left you hanging, but they couldn't really make the second game because there was not much left to tell, and they would have to be making a bunch of stuff up, and there was a lot of critics on the first game, so there was really no point in making the second game, even though there should have been a second game. So kind of the same thing with Salem. If they stuck to being accurate, it might not have been as a good season, and they're trying to get more ratings because, you know, there's some mixed feelings on season 1 of Salem, and they're trying to get people to watch Salem or catch up with it now that it's in its new season, and they're promising that it's going to be better, which it's certainly it's shaping up to be a pretty good season, judging by the first 2 episodes. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a review next week, episode 3. If you're interested, it's on WGN America, DirecTV, it's channel 307, it's at 10 o'clock on Sunday, so April 19th is the next episode, and so yeah, so that is all. Comment below, subscribe, like, share, and I will be doing another review next week. Tune in for that, and thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.